Esam gatavi sākt, vai ne? Labs rīts!
Labrīt!
Ļoti labi, es gaidīju šo momentu, es domāju tā, vajadzēs man teikt vēlreiz labrīt, bet bija ļoti labi, bet es vēlreiz. Labs rīts!
Labrīt!
Forši, jūs nevarat iedomāties, pēc šīs pauzes saņemt šo enerģiju no jums, auditorijas un šo klātesamības efektu. Maziņš satraukums, es atzīšos, tāpēc, kad ir bijusi pauzīte uzstāties publiski, bet tāds ļoti, ļoti patīkams satraukums. Nu, lūk, tad šodien pasākums, klātienes pasākums par ESG, Sustainability, ilgtspēju un visu ap šīm te tēmām. Un gribēju sākt ar vienu tādu analoģiju, bet tādu analoģiju mazliet savādāku. Jūs noteikti esat redzējuši filmu Fight Club, vai ne? Tur Breds Pitts ir galvenajā loma. Un tad pirmais noteikums par Fight Club bija Don't talk about the Fight Club, vai ne? Jā. Un kāds bija otrs noteikums? Jā, nevar talk about it, pareizi. Nu, lūk, un kas attiecās uz ilgtspēju, tad visi pilnīgi galīgi otrādāk. Visi dotajā brīdī runā par ilgtspēju. Un kur mēs vien tik spējam lasīt, mēs pagriežamies, visur mēs runājam par ilgtspēju. Un te ir divi aspekti. Viens aspekts ir privāts, otrs ir, protams, par biznesu. Nu, un tā ir par privāts. Šī ilgtspējas tēma mums tagad ir tā iegrozījusies, kad mēs sākam skatīties un taupīt elektrību. Skatīties uz elektrību, zaļo elektrību. Ko mēs darām? Mēs liekam saules paneļus. Ļoti populāra tēma. Tad mēs ejam dušā un domājam, varbūt, kad es šodien varu mazāk iet dušā, lai es varētu rūpēties par vidi un ekoloģiju, vai ne? Tas pats attiecās uz elektroautomašīnām un tā tālāk. Tad privātais faktors mums visu laiku arī nāk līdzi, un mēs negribot par to piedomājam, tāpēc, ka visi par to runā, vai ne? Un tagad, kad mēs atgriežamies biznesa vidē, ir tieši tāpat. Visi par to runā, un mēs uzdodam sev šo jautājumu. Ok, labi, privāti saprotu, biznesam, saprotu, ka tas brīdis tuvojās, ka man būs kaut kādā veidā jāatskaitās. Un tad jautājums, kāpēc man tas būs jādara? Mēs to varam savilkt no privātās puses, jā, bet no otras puses ļoti drīz, visticamāk, ka vairumam no jums jau kreditori ir sākuši kaut ko prasīt par ilgtspēju, kā jūs šos te jautājumus risināt. Investori, īpašnieki, arī klienti jūsēji drīzi vien par šīm jautājumiem uzdos ar vien vairāk jautājumus. Nu, un tad, protams, nekas nenotiek bez pātagas, un tad arī Eiropas Savienība mums ir parūpējusies par to, lai mēs par šiem jautājumiem vairāk un vairāk runātu. Un ne tikai runātu, bet arī domātu, kā mēs veiksim šo te atskaitīšanos momentu. Un tad nākošais jautājums. Ok, mēs esam sapratuši, kāpēc mums tas būtu jādara. Kā to izdarīt? Kas mums būs jādara? Kas mums varēs palīdzēt? Un kas mums varēs konsultēt? Un ar kādiem instrumentiem mēs to varēsim darīt? Dāmas un kungi, es jums apsveicu. Jūs esat ļoti pareizajā vietā šodien, jo šodien tieši mēs runāsim par šīm tēmām. Kāpēc? Kāpēc tas mums būtu jādara no uzņēmuma perspektīvas? Un kā to izdarīt, ar kādiem instrumentiem un kādi konsultanti mums varēs palīdzēt. Un tad šodien mēs esam sapulcinājuši ļoti bagātīgu runātāju klāstu, gan no SAP, gan arī no mūsu sadarbības partneriem. Jo SAP biznesa pamatā ir sadarbība ar partneriem, un partneri mums ir ļoti svarīga biznesa sastāvdaļa. Un tieši partneri un konsultācijas ir tas, kā mēs veidojam šo biznesa vidi. Nu, lūk, un tad šodien dienas kārtībā vispār par vispārīgām tēmām, tad kāpēc mums tas ir nepieciešams, un arī būs praktiski piemēri ar demonstrācijām, kā jūs varat šos te jautājumus atrisināt nākotnē. Nu, lūk, tas par ievadu. Tagad mazliet par loģistiku. Jūs redzat, ka mēs šeit esam ļoti skaista un jauks kolektīvs. Un šis, es teiktu tā, nav tipisks konferenču formāts. jūtamies ērti, brīvi un uzdodam jautājumus. Jo šiem ekspertiem visiem, viņiem šīs zināšanas ir iekšā un izmantot šo brīdi, lai rastu atbildes uz jūsu jautājumiem, kas jau jums ir tagad iespējams sakrājušās, vai arī jūs domājat, kā jūs tos risināsiet nākotnē. Tāpēc nekautrējamies, uzdodam jautājumus, un es arī jums palīdzēšu iekustināt, lai jūs šos jautājumus uzdod. Nu, lūk, tā. Tad vēlreiz mani sauc Ainars Bemberis, es būšu pasākumu moderators, un, ja ir jautājumi, ceļam roku, uzdodam un nekautrējamies. Nu tā. Tātad uz šīs pozitīvās nots es palūkšu aplausus jums un aplausus mums. Paldies! Tad es pieteikšu nākošo runātāju. The next speaker, according to agenda, is Tiina Antturi. Tiina, you're welcome on the stage. And please give an applause for the Tiina. Yes, thank you very much.
Kiitos Ainars Bemberisi.
Yes.
Kiitos kun sain tulla tänne ja nyt varmaan saadaan kaikki puhua sitten ihan omaa kieltä tänään. Yes, yeah.
Agree. Agree.
Terveisiä Suomesta.
Yes, Tiina. So please, then the floor is yours, and you will talk about economics bringing profit and planet together, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Would you like me to do it in English?
Probably yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
The presenter is over there.
Oh, okay. This is getting complicated. Yeah.
Yes.
So.
It's very easy.
I need to. Is it?
Yeah.
Just the arrow.
Just this. Yes. Just an arrow.
Yeah.
Please.
Does it change? Yes. Did it change?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Good morning. Yeah. So it's really, I don't know. Maybe Finnish sounds exactly as funny as because you can understand a couple of words here and there. Yeah, expert, conference, like that. Yeah. Normal conference. Yes. So there's a lot of familiarities, but it's really great to be here. So just arrived yesterday with beautiful city. I've been here once before, but I wish we would have more time. But we're moving on today. I wanted to tell you a little bit of my story, and also in the beginning about why sustainability is close to my heart, and why on earth am I here today. And my background is okay, I'm 57, so there's a lot of background. So basically, I've been like more than 20 years in IT business, so Oracle, Microsoft. I've been an HR director, mostly in sales most of my life, sales director for EMEA, for retail industries, and doing a lot of stuff like that. But then maybe 10 years ago, I joined one of the boards of the NGO in Finland. World Vision is a global NGO, child protection NGO, and World Vision is located in more than 100 countries with 3.1 billion turnover. So it's doing humanitarian aid, child protection, you name it, development programs in all kind of places in the world, helping the most fragile, most vulnerable people. So we went to places, or we're going to places where nobody else usually goes to. So and then after being a board member, I started and I applied for the CEO position for World Vision Finland. So for 6 years, I've been traveling around. Traveling around the world. Usually, when I went to a place, they went me to visit a dump site. So because that's where the poorest people are living. So I've been into the refugee camps, and dump sites in Mongolia and Armenia and Philippines and Uganda and Kenya, Rwanda, Cambodia, you name it. So usually, I've seen the dump sites of the big cities and the slums. So and then one of our job was also to help disabled refugees. These stories are, this is the dump site Korokocho, in center of Nairobi, the worst place. So usually when you go to that area, you need to have armed security with you because it's very dangerous to walk around there. And those other pictures, this is Alex from Adjumani refugee camp. That's Opi, and I forgot the name of this lady in the middle of the big picture, but it's from Omuga refugee camp, very close to Congo border. So basically, my job was to make sure that the funds that we are raising in Finland, our turnover was about 12 million, 13 million a year, euros, and then that money was used in those countries to make the world run better, so especially very focused on the disability. And basically, during those 6 years, what I learned, so what I took from the business life to an NGO was more like pipeline building, funnels, marketing, how you create productivity, how you do more with less, how you use technology, how you do the marketing and all that, how to make it function so that, we are more efficient with raising the funds, and also the return on investment and total cost of ownership, things like that. And then what I took back from there was actually the understanding about change management. And if you look at the lives of people that are escaping war, they've lost their children, maybe parents, sometimes their health, they've been injured. Like Alex here, his legs are not functioning. So his village was, the soldiers came in and they started to burn the village and shoot, so they needed to escape. And because he was disabled, he had already lost his family, so he was alone. So he was crawling more than 2 weeks, like this, to get to the refugee camps. And it's very warm. It's like total heat, there in the border of Uganda. You don't know, nothing to eat. People were running all over him, and he was hiding in the bushes during the night. So, with the animals, so there were snakes and hyenas and all, So you can only imagine that how tough it is for Alex to get to a refugee camp. And then finally he gets to the refugee camp, so he gets some help, and he gets the clean water, he gets to wash, and he gets to drink the clean water. And this is the status where he finally has a profession for himself. So he's doing milling, and he has this association with his friends that they are doing the kind of graining and milling for the refugee camp. And he says that he's so happy and he can afford to buy anything he wants, because he has a profession. So the belt, for instance, is one example of that. So everything is relative, okay? So I was traveling, I was talking with these people, and they taught me that they said, actually, pay attention to the things you have. Don't pay attention to the things that you don't have, okay? And I go like, in my head, I go like, but you don't have anything, But actually, you have hands, you have your brains, maybe you have your family, you have your kids. Some of them have their kids, some of them have hands, but but still the focus is on the things what you have. And the focus is also on the things, how you define yourself. You don't define yourself where you're coming from, but you define yourself and your future where you're going to, because you only can start your journey from where you are, exactly at this spot, and then you can go forward. So don't look back, So whatever there is, you can always have the resilience and the attitude and hope and the kind of there is a lot of powers in human beings and they decided to do something, and they get a second chance. Okay, so Opi, for instance, in this corner, he was born without hands, but he's a secretary for the disabled committee in the refugee camp of Ajumani. So, but then he's also an artist. He has painted this picture and he's a businessman. He's doing soap and he's selling the soap and he's teaching actually the other people to also manufacture the soap, and so he can pay for his studies at the university. Okay, so there's a lot of stories we can learn from, even in a situation like this. So let's go even deeper. So I'm going to put you in a very difficult situation, understanding about what's happening in the world. Okay, we have very close here some crises going on, and so we, in Finland and in Baltics especially, we feel it in our bones that world can change very suddenly. But there are. If you look at the things that are going, the global crisis right now. So on top of Ukraine, we have Afghanistan. Nobody's talking about it now, but it's still very much ongoing. Syria has been for 10 years. There's a crisis, Venezuela, Congo, there is Myanmar, there is you name it, but there's a lot of places actually right now. So we have big crises on the world going on right now. We're talking about hunger, and that is getting really big now, especially with the Ukrainian situation, but also pandemia. So the problems with logistics, you know how it caused the problems when the borders were closed, and also kids were not in the schools. The number of child marriages is like, some estimation is 90 million more than normally in a year, because the poor people, they cannot afford their living. So suddenly it sounds very practical because the kids are not in the school, so you get a good deal by selling your kid into a marriage and monetize your living with that. And then climate change, the extreme situation when it comes to drought and floods. So we have a lot of extreme examples. One example is Taiwan, where almost 60% of the components are produced to our machines. So they have a dry season. It's a severe dry season in more than, was it 56 years? So, and when you build components and produce them, you need to have a lot of water. And now it's driest ever in 56 years. Okay, so these kind of changes, they are affecting our lives here. And these are global problems that we cannot actually close our eyes, because we are in this world together. And then if you look at COVID-19, what it has caused, it's not done yet. We just don't talk about it not that much now. But we have not vaccinated not even half of the population on the earth. So there's a lot of things that are ongoing, and it's, this is life, okay? We need to just understand, and we need to have understanding on where we are and what our world look like. So we cannot close our eyes. And now, the more we have information with transparency and we get the visibility all around the world, we need to be very sophisticated and global citizens to understand this is the world we're living in, okay, today. So don't close your eyes. At the same time, the clusters of drivers of change, we're talking about mega trends. So, technological change is something that it's very on top right now. And this is why we're here also today. So we're going to talk about technology. We have a scarcity of resources, so it's very hard to find right kind of people to work in especially in white collar industry, but also the people that are working in the countries where our minerals are coming from, the low cost kind of the labor areas, So we're going to have scarcity on resources. So, it's just curiosity and horrible one is that Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo is producing a lot of the cobalt in the world. And most of that cobalt that we are actually using, we are all carrying cobalt with us, is mined by child labor. So, no human rights in that area and very tough conditions and mostly done by children. And so basically, our chains, value chains are going very, very far. So am I kind of radical enough here with this information? But I'm not going to scare you. It's not because I'm scaring you. This is, based on facts. This is the world we're living in. Let's take the other side. It's not that bad because there is hope. If you look at this on perspective, let's put it on the scale like 15 years. We're saying that poverty has going bad during the COVID, so we've taken step backs like 5 years. But if you look at 15 years, we're still on the good track. Okay, if you take 100 years, we're very much on the good track. So things are also getting better. So it does not make any sense to just give up and say, all right, we've lost this game, nothing can be done. But yes, there's a lot of stuff that we can do. And this is what I wanted to also tell, through my story, that why SAP? So why am I now working after all this experience in SAP? So there was a certain moment when I realized that, okay, something needs to be done differently, and maybe I will tell about this moment later when that happened. But it's estimated that 70% of business transactions in the world is going somehow through SAP. Okay. So there's a lot of responsibility. It's not just the business opportunity, but it's also a responsibility because we are actually obliged to do something with this through our customers and the ecosystem. And it's estimated that the heaviest industries, the carbon industries, are using SAP. So 80% of those are using SAP. So it's our responsibility to take sustainability in a very serious way. Okay. So one of the reasons is it's because of this. We are looking at, because you will have a lot of presentations today about zero inequality, zero waste, and zero emissions, so the climate actions. We're going to hear about oceans. We're going to hear about, how is the world doing? What kind of things are happening here? And also we're going to get some ideas and technological solutions. So how we're going to at least somehow fix some of the things so that we get more transparency, we get more openness, we get more systematic way of looking at the things. And the key thing is that if businesses are doing this profitable, we can actually make some of the changes happen. Mariana, we were talking about one product, and can I tell about the background, where you're from and all that? Yeah. So she's coming from Mexico City. 26 million people living in one city. Okay, Finland is 5.5 million people. So so I don't even have my imagination going that far. But whenever I went to a place like Mongolia, very far in the, or let's say what is the most exotic, Iloilo Island, Philippines, or a refugee camp in North Uganda. So there was one product all over, and what's that product that it's seen wherever you go? If there's no electricity, there's no clean water, there is something. So what is your guess? Coca-Cola, yeah. So it's all over. Isn't it amazing that it's So looking at on the other side, okay, yeah, quite high penetration for that market, but what is the responsibility of a product like that? In the most poorest places where people don't have clothes, So at certain, some corner, there is maybe a vending machine or something, a fridge, or even a logo. You can see the logo anyway. So, okay, I've seen places where there is no vending machines, but you can find a T-shirt, with the logo of Coca-Cola. If you look at businesses like that, there's a lot of also opportunities and responsibility and change. You can do a lot of change because, some brands are very, very highly penetrated around the world. And of course, there's regulation that's also helping. So there are going to be some more and more legal stuff. I think we made a very good move, was it 2 weeks ago in European Union when we decided that we're only going to have one plug-in for chargers for mobile phones. So, that's a very good decision. And go to Netflix and have a look at the document about what's happening with electronic waste in Ghana and how they are burning the batteries and electronic waste and trying to get the copper out of that and all that. So it makes a lot of sense actually to reduce the number of electronic waste as well, okay? So we're going to have regulations like that. We're going to have business decisions that are going to change. Little by little, we're going to go to the right direction. So I'm not saying that, after this seminar, we're ready and everything's going to be good, but we can move to the right direction. So we start from here and we take the steps to the right direction, okay? So this is the story when I thought that, okay, maybe I'll go back to business again. This was the Philippines. This is Iloilo. It's one of the slums there. I attended a ground trip or a kind of ground survey where we went to the slums and we were talking with people and we were asking that, just one example, so on the waste. So we were said that, okay, you are using these shampoo sachets. So it's like one disposable sachet, I don't know, maybe 50 cents, 25 cents. And it's plastic and foil. It's shiny, pink, looks nice and it's very luxurious. And as you can see from a kiosk there's a lot of disposable one-time uses like detergents and whatever washing fluids and shampoos and everything is disposable. So we went around and asked that, okay, would you change your sachet to a recyclable bottle where you can have a bit more with the same price and you can go and fill it in, So you have this one bottle and you fill it in and so you don't need to throw away the sachet every time you've been using. But it's very obvious that it's not going to change by the consumers. Because if you have visited slums, you can understand that there is no locks, there are no storages, you have a tiny little room with 13 people living there, hardly a roof. There's no place where you can put your precious shampoo away. And you don't even know if you're gonna wash your hair next week. So you're really living on the moment. So, if you find a water hose in the middle of the street and you have this 50 cents so you can buy your shampoo, but you still want to look pretty, you want to smell good, you want to be clean. It's about humanity, it's about human rights, and it's about identity that, you have the right to be clean and feel nice about yourself. So, that's not going to change. Then I started to calculate, okay, we're going to be 8 billion 2025 altogether. So due to an urbanization process, 70% of us is living in the cities. Out of that, at least 1/3 is living in areas where there's no infrastructure, there's no water or toilets or, so it's going to be very slum kind of area. So we're talking about 1.8 billion people So let's imagine that these 1.8 billion people weekly are using, let's say, 2 shampoo sachets, if it's a good week, okay? And then all that waste is thrown away in the oceans and in the water, in this, wherever, in the rivers. So that takes about 300 billion shampoo sachets a year. Usually it's, well, I'm not probably supposed to say, but Sunsilk and Head & Shoulders were the brands. So we'll go back to the businesses. So I thought, okay, for instance, SAP now has a customer called Kate Palmolive, producing the toothpaste, for instance, okay? So right now, at this moment of time, 9 billion packages of toothpaste are in plastic yearly. But they have made a promission, they have promised that by 2025, they're going to replace all of that with renewable or recyclable products or packages. I think that makes sense, okay? So they are using technology, the product footprint management to track down, where the materials are coming from and, the whole process. So there's an innovation and the brands are doing the change. So, okay, I'm kind of holding on to multiplying those kind of ideas so that we understand where our goods are coming from. And when you look at the sustainability, it's not just carbon. Everybody's talking about carbon now, but actually, this is World Economic Forum framework. So, there's a lot of good governance stuff that, we all need to be transparent, systematic. There's ethics and reporting and governance and kind of, then we have prosperity when it comes to the economic contribution, and we have people-related stuff, everything that, where our people are working and what's the value chain, what kind of agreements do they have, what kind of work conditions, are they paid equally, what about the risks and health and safety and things like that. So we need to track that down. And then everything to do with the planet. So sustainability, it's a very huge area and very complicated if you take it as a whole, okay? But you need to start with one corner. So, and the reason why we're here today is that through our partners and the ecosystem and through our products, there is a very good understanding on what we can do with some of the stuff. So it's not only the regularity, or it's not only the reporting or the legal stuff that where we need to do the change, but you can also start to innovate, and you can also start to new processes and new services and new products that are sustainable, that are actually helping our children, their children, to have a future that actually that the planet will carry, everything that's on it. So basically, that's the kind of the story about why, so understanding the crisis and looking at the personal stories and how we have resilience and hope, and there's still a lot of things that we can do, and then closing the loop with technology and business and make the money move. So if we don't make the money move, none of this is gonna happen. So that's why we are all on the good side. Okay, so it's not that I used to be on the good side and now I'm on the bad side. No, we are all on the good side because we have a lot of influence power through the work that we're doing. So that's it. Okay.
Thank you very much, Tiina. Kādi jautājumi varbūt Tiinai?
Very inspirational story from you.
Thank you.
It's inspirational. Makes you think.
Yeah, good. Because I think we can also learn so much, from outside, from where we're coming from. So, thank you so much.
All right. I would like to now welcome Māris Svilans, Infotrust, our SAP partner on the stage. Welcome, Maris, and then this physical floor is yours.
And we can shake the hands even.
Yes, we can do
Thanks.
that. All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Ainars, and welcome everyone. Māris Svilans, I know some of you, some new faces, but what I can tell after being 20 years in the industry with Infotrust and around 200 projects that our teams in Riga and Vilnius have delivered, there is one thing common to us as humans and companies also, because humans live and work in a company as well. And this one thing common is what do we do when we face a new problem? Let's say, what do we do if we face regulator says there is a new ESG regulation that you have to comply with? So we probably first thing is how to fix it quickly. Yeah? We see a problem and we want to fix that problem as soon as possible. But it's not always solve the core situation in reality. Let's take, for example, me as an example. Imagine I would suddenly have a back problem. I have a pain, yeah, and I go to doctor and ask, so what do you suggest me to do? And doctor says there are two options. One is quick, so you can take a pill to relieve your pain, or start doing exercises, swimming like 3 times per week for 6 months, and after 6 months you will start to feel better. So what you would suggest me to do? Both. Probably. Good idea. But in reality, yeah, I think with this fixing problems and there is more need to focus not on fixing something, but rather investing time and creating something that will last longer in the time and fix the issue permanently, or at least create a system that will help to achieve that. And when working with the companies relating to ESG topic, to sustainability, when talking with the business leaders, we see 3 agendas in common to them. First is, of course, to comply with the current and upcoming regulatory requirements, just to be compliant with what's demanded to keep the business legally running. But it's certainly okay, the pill probably, but what is creating the value is thinking about how to embed these sustainability metrics into business processes, to keep running business better, to measure business, and to actually, by doing that, either improving or reducing costs. So it actually starts to create more value to the companies. And going even further, it allows you to think also how to grow the business and maybe think about new products, new solutions, or new business models. Because what we have seen, for example, me, you as a buyer, probably you know that in the supermarket you can buy organic food, which is more expensive, but the society accepts it and spends more, is ready to pay more price, higher price for either more sustainable stuff, more for organic food. And this is also the market research from Gallup, I think, was showing that the sustainable companies and products are growing 3 to 4 times faster than traditional companies. So it actually not only solves something, but also helps to grow the business in this direction. But how to create value? So when focusing on creating value, we need to start with something. Manufacturing company, for example, with what to start relating to sustainability data. First, probably we would start look where our data is. So, okay, we review what we have. Probably the company has data warehousing, data analytics that do financial reporting, customer reporting, and stuff like that. But where is our sustainability data? And when you start looking for that, probably you will not find it right away. And that's okay, because at least first idea is to understand what data can be used for our business, and maybe to find out one area where we can measure something and what is really impacting your business. Probably they will start to look for greenhouse gas emissions, CO2 data for their logistics process. So they are manufacturing products and they have transportation. So in that area, they have to start looking for transportation routes, costs, how to get CO2 data related to that process. Once you understand where you can get some information data, initially even it might not be perfect, but at least it's something to start measuring and seeing your progress towards the direction we want to go. Second step is to understand what KPIs we can create from this data. So cost information, CO2 emissions. So and once we collect this data, we can start making some new strategies. For example, analyzing our current customer behaviors, what they buy, where they buy, and how we deliver it currently, and maybe there are transportation alternatives to our current channels and delivery logistics. So by finding these alternatives and measuring the results after implementing these alternatives, we can start to see how we are progressing towards improving that part. And very often these strategies can go and deliver not only the reduction of these emissions, but also a reduction of costs. Once you have this one KPI measure implemented, and it helps you to do measurable and meaningful impact to the company, you can look for the second measure. For example, what to do with the energy or electricity part. And with SAP solution, what we can achieve in this case, for example, we have this example of this logistic manufacturing company. We see greenhouse gas emissions, scope 1, 2, 3, and we can see our carbon footprint of delivery. We can see even from transport part how much costs and CO2 emissions are allocated to our customers or products. We can start do modeling. For example, if we can change energy from to solar, or if we change packaging to recycled, or we can change truck transportation to, for example, truck and train model. And so based on the actual data, we can start to do also simulations on actual data, how this will change. So how emissions will change, how our finance will change with that part. So our mission here is to help you to move from traditional reporting, ESG reporting, to performance-based sustainability reporting that would drive these meaningful business impacts and create the value. But it's all about data, and on this journey, what we need to help is to overcome different obstacles, like how to get this data automatically, how to ensure that this data is trustful and data quality is in the right place and right information, and how to embed the data in your business process so that the people, your managers, everyday employees in the company can use these measures to make their daily decisions in the companies about the products or solutions they are delivering to the customers. So finally, when implementing that part, what is changing in our reporting? So traditionally, probably all your BI systems, analytics systems are answering your questions. For example, how much revenue I can get from this product? what is changing now, into addition to these questions, the new answers you can get also, what is the CO2 footprint of my product? And in the future, you might answer the question, what is the overall impact of my new product to society, environment, and our planet? So that's the change that we are having. And most of the companies are somewhere on the beginning of this journey. Yeah? But by implementing these measures, we can move forward. And once we have KPIs implemented, for example, using SAP Analytics, we can create or develop these KPIs into easy to use, understandable metrics for the companies to see, for example, on greenhouse gas emissions, the overall overview, or to drive more insights how these KPIs are evolving over time. So are we improving? Are we making meaningful progress towards achieving our goals with our KPI? And by providing that information to everyone in the company, the people in the company can understand what this KPI measure actually means. Yeah? So once the people in the company understand our goals, our missions, where we are going, what is our intention, they also understand better in the daily jobs. But by doing that, I actually helping to make my company more sustainable or my products more sustainable. And within the solution, we can also analyze different ratios. For example, in this company, I can analyze, for example, how many in the management board, what is the percentage of the female, for example, in Denmark is in this example had significantly more. And there can be, of course, over time, more and more KPIs added that you can see and measure. To summarize about the systematic approach to implementing sustainable projects. So first step, I think, is to agree on find a metric, at least one metric that can make impact to your business, where your companies actually have a lot of usage. Either it can be electricity or transportation costs or whatever it can be. It depends on your industry, on the business. And agree then with the stakeholders what you want to change about these metrics. Start measuring it, and once you start measuring it, you can manage it. Yeah? So to see, are we going right direction? And also important is then to communicate to your colleagues that this is the goal we are going, this is our progress, and share the insights to be able to make your daily decisions based on these insights driven by these metrics. So I think quite short recipe how to approach ESG sustainability in a systematic way and approach.
Okay, then now it's time for applause. Thank you, Maris. Any questions from audience? Mēs varam arī uz latviešu valodu pārslēgties.
Jā, varam.
Jā, droši.
Man ir jautājums, kas ir jūsu auditorija, cik lielam ir jābūt uzņēmumam, lai Latvijā, piemēram, cik daudz ir tādu uzņēmumu, kas var šo atļauties?
Ir tā, ka teiksim, es teiktu, jebkurš uzņēmums, kuram tas kā risinājums ir svarīgs un nozīmīgs, es domāju, mēs šodien vēlāk dzirdēsim arī no Jūlijas stāstu par to, kuras industrijas, kurā laikā tas kļūs arvien aktuālāks un aktuālāks. Protams, no organizācijas mēroga skatoties, ja jūs jūtaties kā organizācija nozīmīgs spēlētājs tirgu un jums šis ir svarīgs, tad es domāju, tā risinājumu, teiksim, ieviešanas daļa, šis risinājums varbūt ja arī jebkurš cits. Teiksim, tāds konkrēts robežas no līdz nav. Ar klienti, ar kuriem mēs strādājam, mums ir gan ļoti lieli klienti, teiksim, ir mums uzņēmums, globāls uzņēmums, kuram ir aptuveni 2000 BI lietotāji datorlīdzīgas, kurus mēs atbalstam ikdienā. Ir arī uzņēmumi, kuros ir 5 cilvēki, kas ar šo strādā ikdienā.
Tad mazie un vidēji, jā.
Arī jā.
Noteikti. Es domāju, ka jūs izmantosim kafijas pauzīti, kas ir, jūs varat tā mazliet par detaļām parunāties jau konkrētāk un varbūt kaut kādiem pirmiem soļiem. Jā, lūdzu.
Maybe in English, a bit technical question about CO2 emissions. So, of course, it's easier to do the scope 1 and scope 2. What about scope 3 and how do you see how many companies from your clients have implemented scope 3 emission?
Mariana, maybe you can.
All of them are implementing scope 3 emissions right now, at least in some of our clients from Spain. What they are trying to, of course, is analyze to increase the number of categories they are reporting to in scope 3. So most of them just started analyzing like a few, maybe one of them has 5 and the other one is starting with 3 only. But the interesting part is that we also have some predefined content. I will show you some afterwards, but we also have some predefined content for scope 3. So I can show you something, but of course, scope 3 is depending and customized to each company because it changes a lot. You can have, for example, in the flight category, but it is dependable, of course, of the production you have and the materials you create. So, yeah, that could be analyzed. But the tool per se, the solutions we will show you later, can optimize also the gathering of information of each. You can get closer to your suppliers, obtain the information you need from them. So it's easier to control and automatize most of the process.
Jautājums, es latviski industrijas ir kādas, kurām ir vieglāk datu ziņā ieviest, droši vien kādas, kuras ir komplicētākas, sarežģītākas, un kurš šajā vietā, tajā skalā atrodas, piemēram, nekustamā īpašuma, būvniecību, pārvaldību un tādām lietām, kā liela emisiju radītāji. Apmēram, vai vismaz kaut kādu. I'm sorry.
Es varbūt atbildēšu no prakses. Tad atbilde būs tāda, ka šobrīd tieši šai industrija ir liels prasības un tiek veidoti dažādi risinājumi, kas var būt savienoti arī ar SAP un SAP, kur visa nepieciešama informācija jau ir. Nosauksim tā, lai aprēķinātu savu ietekmi, jums ir jābūt izējas datiem, kas ir tas, kas ir pieejami jebkuram uzņēmumam jūsu grāmatvedībā, un tad ir jau kaut kādi nosacīti emisiju faktori vai kaut kas, un tie ir pieejami dažādās datubāzēs. Tā kā, principā,
cik liels izaicinājums tāds ir jautājums, vai šī industrijai?
Šī industrijai atkarība no tā, cik jūs esat gatavi investēt šajā procesā laiku vai naudu, jo ir gatavi risinājumi, kas maksās. Es šeit neiet runa par kaut kādiem miljoniem, neiet runa par miljoniem, bet tūkstošiem līdz 10, teiksim tā, lai varētu atrast tās datubāzes, kas ir nepieciešamas tieši jūsu minētai nozarei. Un tad tālāk tas tiek veidots. To var atrast arī brīvpieejams, bet tas prasa daudz vairāk laika, un tie risinājumi nebūs, piemēram, Excels, kas nebūs tik ērts lietošanā.
Bet Excels pacieš visu? Ļoti labi jautājumi. Jā, lūdzu.
Jautājums par datubāzēm. Šis risinājums ir balstīts uz kaut kādu SAP HANA apakšā vai uz kādu risinājumu?
Jā, pats risinājums balstās uz SAP HANU, bet viņš ir gan mākoņu risinājums, gan arī uzņēmumā liekams. Bet savukārt datu avoti var būt viņam pilnīgi jebkuri. Un pie tam ir tā, ka daudzkārt ir tā, ka klienti, ar ko sāk, bieži vien tepat mums Baltijā mēs esam iesuši dažās bankās šo rīku. Un ir dati ņemti gan no datu noliktavas, no grāmatvedības, no Jira sistēmas, kur kaut kāda procesa ir. Un ir kaut kādi dati bijuši, kur saka, mums vēl tas nav gatavs, bet mums šobrīd ir Excels. Sākumā mēs varam paņemt arī šo Excel kā avotu, jābūt procesam, kas to Excel reizi mēnesī vai kā tur update to liek, bet pēc pusgada vai gada, kad jūs saprotat, jā, šie dati Excelī man tagad ir tādi ļoti stabili, nu es varu dot uzdevumu, ka viņš es šos datus ņemu source vai kaut kur no avotu sistēmas patiešo. Un tajā brīdī, attiecīgi, tad tas nozīmē, ka mēs varam to veidot dažādos ātrumos, respektīvi, tas sākumā varbūt nav perfekti, bet ir kaut kas ir, un ar laiku mēs varam tad to Excel, piemēram, samainīt pret kaut ko citu. Bet tas process, kas ir pēc tam, viņš nemainās, un viņš joprojām šos rādītājus uzkrāja un rada.
Jā, ļoti labi jautājums. Īstenībā man par šiem datu avotiem bija jautājums, bet man izrāva pilnīgi jautājumu. Ļoti labi.
Jā, un teiksim tā par īpaši tas jautājums, kur bija par Scope 3, kas ir sarežģītāks process, kā to darīt. Tur es vēl pat varu paskaidrot, Mariana nav parādījis, bet tā ideja, ka šis rīks tiek lietots arī citiem gadu uzdevumiem. Bieži vien uzņēmumus viņu izmanto activity-based costing vajadzībām, kur mēs attiecinām izmaksas, savācam izmaksas no dažādiem procesiem, darbiniekiem, attiecinām uz produktiem, pakalpojumiem un tādā veidā sarēķinām pašizmaksu. Tāda līdzīgā veidā ir tikai nevis finanšu dati, bet arī emisiju dati un līdzīgi dati, kurus arī mēs varam attiecināt līdz pat produktam, līdz pat faktiski mēs varam sarēķināt katra klienta viņu carbon footprint, piemēram.
Mariana will show us really how to make it happen, how to make sustainability, how to make the reporting for your companies. Please, welcome.
Well, mine is not going to be as exciting as Andres, but I hope it is useful. So I wanted to show you a solution that we have created from SAP and MSG, which is called PaPM Sustainability. And the idea with this tool is to present a holistic and steering reporting solution that will help companies achieve their targets in sustainability. So first, I know Marius has mentioned this, but I just wanted to bring you back a little bit to the times we are facing right now. So as we know, there are a lot of regulations coming in Europe and also in general in the world, but there are also frameworks and initiatives that are very on vogue right now. And we know that a lot of companies are requesting us to present information, maybe some suppliers, but maybe investors want us to create reporting specifically for them. So we know there is a world of different reportings out there that are asking for this information in different ways, different units, etc. So we need to adapt our information for that reporting, and that is constant, time implemented. So of course, I just wanted to briefly mention some of the big ones that are coming. So for example, in the regulatory framework, we know that there are national laws coming, the EU regulations such as CSRD, which is coming in 2024, and other directives, also the EU taxonomy, which we know it's knocking on our door. We have already 2 objectives published, but we know that the others are going to be published in 2023. And there are also voluntary standards, such as CDP, the Carbon Disclosure Project, GRI, CDSB, etc. So we have many different types of frameworks and initiatives that are requesting information in terms of sustainability in many different ways. We also know there are other business initiatives such as WEF and other sustainability ratings, which constantly give us different directives in order for us to gather the information. Now, the approach we have to these types of reporting from our solution is a circular approach. So first, what we do is identify the scope. We identify the boundaries, we identify the information that we will want to include in our reporting and the information that we want to manage, of course. Now, once we have done that, then we have to start collecting and calculating in order for us to measure. Of course, in order for us to then go to where we want to go, we first need to know where we're at. And in order for us to do that, well, we need to measure where we are at. After that, we can assess. So once we have measured, we can assess how we're performing with regards to our future targets. For example, maybe we want to reach net zero, or maybe we want to reach climate neutrality. So of course, we need to know specifically where we're standing regarding that. And then we need to act. So in order for us to reach that, we need to implement initiatives that are going to give us the results and that are going to take us there. And once we've done that, we need to communicate it. We need to let our stakeholders know what we're doing in order for us to place ourselves and position ourselves with regards to competition, but also with regards to our suppliers or clients. So as we know and we can see, this is a circular approach. This is not something linear that we do once a year and that's it, that we're fine. No, we need to have a constant approach of this. And this is why we approach it as a circular, because it is constantly changing and it's constantly adding new KPIs or new controls. So what we do in the solution that I'm going to present you in a few minutes is we try to complement and approach all of it. So what we try to do is go into the input data, find that information that we're going to provide. We want to calculate it, and then we want to report it. And in this tool, we can do that. How we do that? So first, I'm going to show you where we take that information from. What we have on the left is the data sources, where we are getting that information. So maybe we have our finance information in SAP, we have maybe success factors for the HR information already established. So we can obtain the information for this tool from there. We can also get it from non-SAP data sources, such as Excel files, which is usually what is used to calculate, for example, carbon emissions, and other databases. And in addition, if in the future we want to increase our approach or our measurement, we can implement SAP sustainability applications, such as product footprint management, product compliance, etc. Now, once we have found where we have that information, those data sources, we will bring the input data into the tool in order for us to collect and enhance that source data, calculate the performance, the environmental performance, the social performance, and the governance performance. And once we have done that, then we can evaluate and we can assess how we're doing according to our baseline or our targets. We can also, besides from that, start doing the holistic reporting. And we can also find a what-if simulation where we will find maybe what would happen if we implement in the future this initiative. What would be the results? So we would have that integrated also in the solution. And we can also report to different initiatives and standards. What I wanted to show you is that we have created now some predefined content for some of the most common sustainability types of reporting. So for example, we have corporate sustainability ESG reporting, which has already integrated the GRI standards, the SDG standards. We have also some predefined content for the TCFD and EU taxonomy assessment. This one is constantly evolving because, as we know, we have not received the final information yet. So it will be constantly be developed. And we have the value chain sustainability management, the product carbon footprint, and the sustainability data frontend. So these are some of the predefined content that we have. But it is important to mention that the tool is quite flexible, so it can adapt to your different necessities. Maybe you are reporting to a specific standard that is within your country, or maybe you want to report something specific for a supply that is outside of your boundaries. Now, I also wanted to mention that this tool is adaptable to different users. We know that sustainability information is constantly changing, and we need different people to provide information to that, for that reporting, for example. So we know that each of these users might have different needs and might have different necessities, of course, with regards to our solution. So what we have created is also a space where you can identify which user will be doing what. So maybe you just want one user to review and to assess the information you are having, but maybe you want someone to be contributing that information, and maybe you also want someone to review that information before it goes to the final hands. So we have adapted this tool so that it also gives response to the different needs of the users. And we also need the IT manager, of course, in order for us to get that information outside of our systems. Now, this would be a flow. I will show you in more detail now with the tool, but this would be a normal flow. So you have someone that is reviewing the information, but then you have someone that is creating the process to gather that information, and then you have someone else who is bringing the information into your Excel files or models, etc. So we have different people involved in different steps of this sustainability reporting, of course. I will jump into the tool as of now, but I just wanted to give a clear idea of what SAP PaPM sustainability is. So it is the ultimate sustainability accounting system in the market. It is optimal bridge between unification and management of the financial and sustainability reporting. And this is why, because PaPM was born for the finance information. But when we created it and we analyzed the type of information that you receive and the type of needs that you have when you are managing the financial information, we found out that it's quite similar to the sustainability information. What? You need the data sources, you need to obtain that information, you also need to calculate and control that information, and you also need to review it and maybe audit. So this was kind of a similar approach, so we found out that PaPM could respond to that too. It has high flexibility and extensibility and alignment to the latest sustainability trends, and it has insight, it gives us insight to future scenarios with simulation and forecast data. Now let's jump in the tool. I want to give a quick demo. So first, I'm going to tell you what we're seeing here. What we're going to see throughout this demo is the same solution. But what we're going to show are the different phases that solution has. And of course, those different phases give response to different users. The first one I want to show you is the dashboard, where we have all the results, all the reporting that then we can use to analyze, review, or even to share with other stakeholders. So what I'm going to show you here is an example we have created based on a fictional company. This is Sunshine Company. And what we will see is the different information that that company has gathered and calculated. So what we can have here are different types of KPIs that we have identified that might be important for the company and for the decision makers in order for them to analyze how the company is performing in terms of sustainability. And we have different spaces where we can add some specific paragraphs about our strategy to give some context, or maybe we have some space where we can place our targets in order for us to compare exactly how we are performing. What is important here to mention is that one of the advantages of PaPM is that you have the most updated information. You have the latest information so that you can make decisions as you can. And this is because we want to try to automatize as much as we can this connection to our data sources. But I want to give you an example of an environmental KPI so that you can see how the analysis would go through. What we have here on the top, for example, in this KPI about energy, is our ambitions, our targets, so that we know what we are comparing to. On the right, we can place the different frameworks or standards that we want to use in order for us to identify what we are seeing here. For example, here we have GRI standards and the UN SDGs. But then we can also specifically analyze how each KPI is performing. What it is interesting here is that you can go into as much detail as you need. So for example, first, in this KPI on the left, we have energy consumption by source of energy. And we want to know specifically what types of energy we are consuming. Now, we have set, let's imagine, a specific target to increase the consumption of renewable energy. What we would be doing is then reviewing how the specific energy consumption is behaving. So we would click here. And in this case, we have a more granular analysis, which is divided by countries. But this can be adapted, of course, to different cities, or maybe you have different processes. So what you're seeing here is a more specific granular analysis that you're telling the tool to show. So this can be adapted to your needs. But what we can see here, let's imagine that we are a Sunshine Corporation, and we want to know specifically which countries are not performing as we expect them to do in terms of renewable energy consumption. What we can see here on the right is that Brazil is the one that is consuming the less amount of renewable energy. So let's take a closer look of why that might be happening. And we click again. And what we see now is the different consumption per business unit. In this case, we have sales, we have IT, we have customer services and marketing. And we now can see in a more detailed way which one is not performing as we expect them to do. So we can take action. It's easier for us to make that. This part of the tool, it's mostly focused for decision makers, no? So for the people that are going to be reviewing that information and make the decisions in order for them to achieve their targets. So this is quite just an overview, an overview of the results that we have calculated behind the scenes. And I will soon show you how that is integrated in the tool. I just want to quickly show you how this can also be modified from the reviewer point of view. So let's imagine that this donut is not working for me. So I can go here, and I can select pie. I would just apply. That would be modified, but I also want to change maybe the measures, maybe the dimensions. So I know that the information has already been provided, so here I can modify the way I'm analyzing in order for me to get the clearest picture I can. So this would be an example. Now I also wanted to show you another KPI, which is very common, and it's one of the most important ones in terms of environmental KPIs in the companies, and that would be the GHG emissions. So as we previously mentioned, we have some predefined content in order for us to gather the Scope 3 emissions. In this case, what we have is the overview of a corporate carbon footprint, but we can take a look, and sorry for this, I think it's because my screen is too small. When you have a bigger screen, it's easier to see, but I can also open it here to have a closer look. So what we can see here is how our GHG is performing right now. So what we would have is a clear picture of right now where we are at in terms of our GHG emissions. As you can see on the below, we have Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3 emissions, and we have different types of analysis. We have the current value, which is how we are performing until this day. We have the baseline value. Usually we set the baseline value to which we want to compare in the future. So for example, maybe you have set 2019 as your baseline value. And then we have also the targeted value, the one we want to achieve. In this case, we know that we are performing okay, and we want to see specifically per country how that's happening in Scope 3. We would also get a closer look on how Scope 3 is performing and where we need to maybe invest a little bit more or set some initiatives in order for us to reach our targets. And then on the right, this is a different type of graph. I think Mari's already showed you. So this is where you see how the flow of your emissions is going. So you have your object type, your country region, your business unit, and you know how your different scopes are being allocated to those specific sets that we have identified. I just want to quickly mention that we also have here, for example, social KPIs. So for example, if you're have success factors in your company, those KPIs, as long as you update the information in success factors, that information would be obtained from PAPM and it would be updated. So the information you would be analyzing here is the latest information that you would have. Now on the top, we can see different tabs where we have predefined content for different topics. As mentioned, we have the predefined topic for EU taxonomy, TCFD, value chain sustainability, but we also have a simulation. And before I show you the simulation, I just want to show you how easy it is to handle this part of the tool, this dashboard. So for example, I want to send this specific view to my manager, and I want him to review one specific KPI because I'm interested in him identifying how that KPI is performing. So I'm just going to tell him, okay, look at this tab that I called Report 1. And I want to create it easily. So what I want to do is, for example, maybe I add something pretty, an image, and maybe I want to add a transparent table so that I can integrate the information I want. So for example, I want to follow how our GHG emissions are behaving right now, and I just want him to focus on this. So what I would do is, select, drag, and drop. There it is. It's weird not being with a mouse outside, sorry for that. But here, you drag and drop that information here, and you can see the latest information, and you will tell your manager only to do to that information. So as you can see, it's quite easy. You can drag and drop as many as you need. You can also add some text, etc. So this is about the editing part. But I want to show you how the carbon footprint simulation works. So here we have some examples of simulation. This has been done because we created some parameters that we want to analyze. Now, in this specific example that I'm going to show you, what we have here is the baseline scenario, and then we're going to tell the tool to recalculate all of the information with a specific parameter. What I mean by parameter is a specific initiative in this case. So let's try again. No, just kidding. Okay, so what we have here is, for example, on the left, the baseline scenario. This is what we are comparing to our what-if scenario. And I'm going to tell the tool to calculate what would happen in my emissions if I increase by 5% the energy efficiency in my company. So I would apply it, and then I would go to Tools, Simulate, and I'm telling the computer to simulate. As you can see here, it has increased, but only because the scale has been reduced. So now we are comparing 25K to 20K, okay? And what we are gonna here analyze is what would happen, for example, to my scope 2 if I increase by 5% my energy efficiency. So we have 19.9 in the baseline scenario, and now we can see that if we increase by 5% of our energy efficiency, our scope 2 emissions would go down to 18.9. So this is quite simple for us to then understand what would be the impact of a specific initiative that we have in mind. Of course, this is one example that we have, but once we start with a project, we try to identify what would be your necessities. Maybe for you, GHG emissions are not that important. Maybe for you, quality is the biggest KPI you have. So we would work with a parameter that works and gives you answers on that. Now, I'm going to close the report or the dashboard part. I don't know if you have any questions about till here. If not, I will jump into the processing part where all the orchestration happens. Is that okay? Okay. Now let's jump into the process part. Now here is where the orchestration happens. The orchestration, what we mean by that is where we are identifying who are going to be the people that are going to be in charge of creating some processes, of gathering information, who are going to be the people that are going to be in charge of contributing information, putting information into the system, and also maybe in some cases, for example, we have internal audits and we need someone to review that information that has been implemented in the tool. So what we would have here are the processes where we create the requests to the different users to put that information in. Let's imagine I'm an administrator and I am in charge of creating the processes. I will be having 3 different processes. In this case, let's imagine that I want to gather information for Riga, then for Vilnius, and then for Tallinn too. So I would create a specific process to gather information from these different sites independently. Each of these processes act independentally. So let's imagine that for Riga, I want to ask the information next month. But for Vilnius, no, I think in September would be fine. And then for Tallinn, December is the perfect way. So what I would be doing is creating the process here, and I would be requesting the information for that specific people that belong to this process. So the contributors of this specific process would be the people in Tallinn that would be providing me that information. Once I create this process, I would go here. Here it is deployed because it has been already been done, but I would select here deployed, and once I've done that, what would happen? It would send an email notification to all the people that need to contribute information into the tool. So let's imagine there are different plants within Tallinn, and I've sent the information to the different plant managers to input that information into the tool. What they would receive is an email such as this, where they would get a link, they would jump into the link, and they would go into the tool. And what they would be seeing is specifically the information they need to provide, not the others. Only open the information that they need to provide. So they would go here, select, show, and upload the information. Once they've done that, they will go here, select complete if it's the process is done, or the complete once they've done it. And once that happens, either we have two ways. Once, if the process does not need review, then that information would be complete and closed. And if the process needs review, what would happen is the reviewer, who we have identified too, will receive another email telling me, hey, Mariana has uploaded that information. Could you please review it? Yes. I would go into the link, I would go into the information, review that everything's okay, and once that's done, I would approve it here. And that information would be closed. Do you want to see how the information is uploaded as an example? Okay. So let's imagine I received a specific email. Mariana went into the system. She sees that she needs to update information here in update facilities consumption. So I would click on here, and then I would go to show, and I would get this tab. Now, once I see this, maybe I just need to add a specific data. So I would go here, modify it, close it, and complete. But maybe I need to upload the full amount of data that we're seeing here. So what I would be doing, which is much simpler usually for the people that are not gonna be that involved with the tool, is just download the information into an Excel file. I would get an Excel like this. And what I would be having here is the Excel with the same fields that I'm requesting. So what I would be seeing here is all the information. I would just copy paste it here. Now that I've done it, I will save it and upload it, import it into the tool. And that information would be imported here. Once I've done that, I complete the task, and that would be it. It is also important to mention that we have a login where you are identifying who made which changes, where, at what time. So you can also track down maybe where that information might be missing, or you saw someone that updated information that was not clear, etc. So it's easier to control all the overview you have here. It's not to blame anyone, it's just to save some mistakes that could happen in the future, of course. And now lastly, I just wanted to show you the modeling side. So everything we're seeing here is the orchestration and the reports come from the modeling side where the magic happens, we call it like that. So this is where the calculations are being done. So what we have here, and I don't want to go into too much detail, just to show you like a big picture. We have here on the left the input data, the information that either we're bringing from SAP applications that we have, or either we're bringing it from an Excel file that we have uploaded, etc. And we would put all the information here into different fields that can be created here or in the infrastructure. But what we have here is all the information that we're going to use to then calculate and process in order for us to then see the final KPIs. And what we have here, I'm just going to open quickly, are different tables containing different information. Once we upload that information into the tool, we can tell the tool, the solution to, okay, use this information here from this table and from this table to calculate the GHG emissions. So what we would have in the processing part, which is in the middle, is all that gathering of information, mapping, and also allocations, calculations, etc. that we might need. And once we've done that, then we can tell the solution, okay, so these are the results I want to be showing in the dashboard. So you would go here and with query, select the specific information that you want to be showing in the dashboard. And you will have here the overview of all the results of your calculations. So I just want to quickly show you how that looks. So here we have different functionalities and different calculations, but it's quite easy to follow back what is happening where. So it's easier for us to also understand what processes are being done. And we also have a space where we can leave some clear information of what is happening specifically here. And we can go here and we would have a description so that the next person that comes into the system identifies that a specific need in this specific step. So it's something that should be maintained over time. And it's something that it's easier to then just modify and update once we want to add something else. And just quickly to finish, I just wanted to show you also that once we've done all these calculations, integrated all the information, maybe we want to share with different stakeholders. And it could be as simple as just creating here in the tools, export as PDF. You will receive an a PDF such as this. and you can send it to as many stakeholders as you need. So there are different ways of now engaging with different people that we want them to be involved in the process of our sustainability management.
Very good. Everybody's shocked, I believe. Everybody's shocked because it looks so simple. Just take the tool and everything is done, right?
Yeah, I do want to mention this. I've come from the sustainability world. I've been working with different companies developing their strategies and their calculation of their carbon footprint. And for me, when I found this, I was like, okay, we are taking a lot of the pain that we have when we're doing this process, and we are concentrating it all in this tool. And now we can take the time to make decisions, identify new initiatives, and maybe improve even our performance. So yeah.
While the audience is considering about the questions, I have a question for you.
Yes.
So imagine that the customer don't have any history with SAP, nothing. Different technologies, different vendors, etc. Can they take the tool and do the reporting?
Yes. What is important is that we have predefined content. So maybe you haven't started anywhere and you want to follow something that gives you a structure that defines the different frameworks and initiatives. What we have and what we were seeing, for example, in the modeling side, are different steps where the tool is already giving you some clues of what information you need to provide, which units specifically, and you can start from there. But also, maybe you already have all that information calculated in some Excel files. You can just import them into the tool and you would feed it directly. So in that way, you would also be automatizing your process in a much simpler way.
Or that could be also third-party systems or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you, Mariana. Let's give up applause. Now, yes, Estonian, Latvian, Lithuanian Environment.
Yep.
Please, Jūlija.
Labrīt visiem. Good morning. I will speak in English, but will happily answer all your questions in Latvian afterwards. So I decided to cut the name of my presentation short, so I'll be talking about good news and bad news, but wanted to make sure, note that some of the news items here can be interpreted in different ways depending on how ready you are to accept these changes and, depending on your perspective. So just a quick introduction about who we are. So I'm here standing in front of you on behalf of my colleagues from Estonian, Latvian, Lithuanian Environment, and short is ELLE. And for our non-Latvian speaking friends, I should probably mention that ELLE in Latvian means hell. So when I call my clients say, hi, I'm Jūlija from hell. But those who know us in the market are quite used to it, and I know that there are some of our clients here. And we are now actually, we're a group of companies with offices in all 3 Baltic states, and there are about 50 environmental experts in the team. But we also work in other regions of the world and have done quite a lot of projects in different parts of the world. So we know a little bit about the sustainable development. In Latvia and Estonia and Lithuania, our clients are some of the biggest companies. As I mentioned, some of you are here. And what's important and what's relevant are some of the services that we provide. We do non-financial reporting, we do GHG calculations, and we work with climate change, both mitigation and adaptation. So developing and helping to develop national, regional, municipal strategies for reduction of emissions and also adapting to climate change, which we inevitably will have to face. We have to be ready. But we also do environmental impact assessments and environmental management systems, and we actually do quite a lot of modeling and measurements. My colleagues yesterday, we did the same thing in Tallinn. They said that I should definitely mention monitoring. That's important. I hope that's important to you. And I will mention why this whole ESG thing is related to monitoring and measurements. And what I think is also very important to note is that we are the co-founders of Institute for Corporate Social Responsibility in Latvia, which was founded in 2011. And so it means that for the past, more than 10 years already, we've been trying to promote the idea of sustainable development in the business field in our country. And I also know that some of you here are also the participating in our benchmarking activity that we do, ELLE Space Index or Sustainability Index, where we basically ask the companies that want to grow in this area to fill in some, quite long questionnaires and to see themselves from the outside. So basically they can see how they develop throughout these years. So the index has been around for more than 10 years, and some of the first participants have been with us for all these years, and they have developed, let me tell you, for quite a bit. They have grown a lot, and they have increased their understanding of what is sustainable stability, how it can be important to them, what they can gain from it. And we also do a lot of, together with the Institute, do a lot of different educational activities, seminars. For example, right now, Sustainability Week is happening, and there are also different activities. And soon we will know actually who of the participants, if they are still platinum, gold, bronze, or maybe even better than that. So we've been in this market for quite a while. And so I see this presentation as a wrap up to, trying to maybe focus on why is it important and what it is all about. So there are all different terms that we have heard today, but why is it important? So here comes the news. So, definitely bad news. We are in the crisis situation, and here I'm talking about climate crisis, biodiversity loss crisis, soil degradation. Our oceans are dying out. Many areas of coral reefs are dying. There are huge areas of plastic, just floating islands, floating continents of plastic in the ocean. So we're in big trouble, so we definitely have to do something about it. We can't, as Tiina said, we just can't close our eyes and pretend that that's not happening. And it's not only us as individuals, which is very important, but it's also us as companies. I think the bad news is that greenwashing is not working anymore and will not be working anymore. Everyone is seeing this boom of, everything's green is really good and it sells well, and you can, as Mari said, you can put a better price tag on that and maybe earn more. But frankly, the consumers are getting smarter, they can understand the topic better, and they're looking for a real thing. They want transparency, they want to see how it's working. And maybe even more important, and in my opinion it's a good news, that there can be legal consequences. So as you see from this news item, so very recently, the police has raided Deutsche Bank and its daughter company for allegedly making false claims about the sustainable investment products that they were offering. So they sold a lot of investment products to their customers, claiming that they were green, so people wanted to invest money in them. And then it turned out that maybe they were not that green. We will see how it evolves, but the suspicion is there. So what I'm trying to say is that, first of all, the clients are demanding sustainability, but they also want to trust. So I think the only way how we can do it is by being transparent. The other bad news is that there are between 500 and 600 different ESG reporting standards out there. So which one do you choose? Really, everyone is asking something different. So maybe you've heard about one standard, but then suddenly your bank sends you a request to respond to some questions related to GHG, and you don't know what is this format and why is it there and what do you have to do it? Do you have to prepare another report, another Excel, another PDF for the one that I developed for other purposes also? Fine. So, well, the bad news and good news is that there are actually standards that are more recognized. For example, the one that Miriam has already, that we have seen, Mariana has showed that, for example, GRI standard, which is Global Reporting Initiative, is already built in the tool that she presented before. But the thing is that it's quite complicated. It's like not just one guidebook. It's like 20 guidebooks, 500 pages each. So where do you start? Like, which one is relevant for you? And I will answer. It also sort of brings us back to that question. So where do I start? And then this GHG reporting, everyone is talking about it. What is it? And what are these scope 1, 2, and 3? So to make it clear, so scope 1 is the emissions of the fuels that you burn in your premises. So it's the gas that you burn in your boiler, in your combustion plant. It's the fuel, diesel or petrol that is burned in the cars that belong to you, so to your company in this case. Scope 2 is the energy that you consume in your company, but the burning happens outside your premises. So it's the electricity that you use, and it's heat that you buy from the network. So it's all the gridded energy that you receive. So this is quite easy. I mean, to put it mildly, all this information is, you can go to your accountant and get it like in half an hour. She will provide all the information needed, so how much fuel you used and bring up the bills from the energy companies. So it's easy. When it comes to scope 3, it's a bit more tricky, but it's definitely very, very important because, it's a real example. When we started with the sustainability index like 10 years ago, and we would come to a financial institution, one of the banks, or all of the banks that also participated there, we were talking about, so they were saying, oh yes, so the way we reduce energy consumption is that we change the light bulbs for energy efficient light bulbs. And the way that we save water is that in our toilets in our office, there are 2 buttons to flush. One big one and one small one, and this is the way how we save water. Well, that's really good that you do that, but what about the impact of your main activity, your investments? How do these investments impact energy consumption and water consumption? Are you investing in, I don't know, maybe coal mining, or you're investing in some other activities, or maybe you're investing in cotton growing in Uzbekistan, which uses like a crazy amount of water and is not comparable in any way by with the consumption of your head office in Latvia. So slowly this understanding is there, but how do we calculate it? So this is all about greenhouse gas emissions in scope 3. So it's all the supply chain before the products or the materials that you use in your production reach your site, your office, and everything that exits it. So your product have also impact. So like example I like to use is that for example, Levy's jeans, they have done their life cycle assessment. Although cotton production is one of the most energy and water intensive crops in the world, and it definitely makes a big chunk of this emissions in the whole life cycle. But it turned out that consumer energy that they use while washing their jeans is the main source of emissions. So by knowing that, we can put our efforts where they can insulate and their production sites 3 times, all around, put 3 layers of rock wool around their production site, it will make no difference. What they have to do is they have to educate their consumers, basically, how to wash your clothes to save energy. That's easy as that, but it's more complicated what you have to calculate. What's bad maybe also is that at the moment those ESG reporting requirements are only related to bigger companies, and those small ones might think, oh, well, I'm not one of them, so maybe I will not have to do that anytime soon. But it's not so true, because banks have to report their emissions also in scope 3. And it means that to get this information, they will ask us, their clients, to report their emissions to them. And so basically, according to the EU Technical Expert Group for Sustainable Finance, so from 2025, banks have to report their scope 3 emissions, or also emission scope under 1, 2, and 3, at least in energy sector and mining. Then in 2024, it will be transportation, construction, building materials, and industrial activities. And from 2026 is all sectors. So basically, it's very, very soon that everyone will have to do it. It's only 4 years to go. So we really have to think about it now to be ready to start, as we have spoken today, start collecting at least acknowledging the sources of information that we have to be able to calculate our emissions when the time comes. Well, the good news or bad news is that it's up to you. You decide that there are already standards and the methodologies of how to calculate are there. So it's greenhouse gas protocol is one of the sort of benchmarks. It's well accepted by different parties. Well, there are different, it's not just one standard, it's different standards depending on your sector, and it's for scope 3, it's a bit more complicated because it's divided into 15 different categories, etc., etc. So it can be quite tricky, but well, on the same time, it's described, so there is a guideline how to do it, step by step. Well, there another change, and it could be good, it can be bad, but as it has been already mentioned that, and some of we have spoken already that some of the companies do already have to report and produce their non-financial reports. So far, these were companies that were large public interest companies with more than 500 employees, listed companies, banks, etc., etc. But now the new directive is about to be published. We're waiting for it, and there will be a larger list of companies that have to do this non-financial reporting, and it will be all large companies, all companies listed on regulated markets. So it will be more. There will be more that have to, that are obliged to report. What is good news is that there will be a mandatory EU sustainability reporting standard. So we will go from those 500 to 600 different standards. We will be able to use one that will be like a good starting point for more of us. And then the data that is reported will have to be digitally tagged. So the idea of the European Commission is that they will want to collect automatically the data from different reports of all these companies reporting in the EU. And obviously you can imagine that they don't want to do it manually, open each PDF by hand. So the idea is that this data will have to have digital tags and will be imported automatically. So again, in this sense, we're again going back to the SAP definitely will be one of the good ways how to do it because it's automated. But then I think we're going to good news. So basically what ESG is a system, a measurement system, similar to any other systems that already you have in your companies, definitely. It's maybe it's in production, side, or maybe it's in a quality control side. So maybe you have ISO 9001, or maybe you have ISO 14001 environmental management system. So, and you will know that to set up a system, it takes time and it's a bit tricky. But when the good system is in place and it operates more or less on its own, so you have to update it, but this process is smooth and it's running more or less on its own, but with one factor. What's important? That the management is involved and interested. If the top management and decision makers are not participating in the system, and it's only from, you know, the secretary that takes care of it, then the system is not functioning. But I hope that no one in this audience represents the companies where it works like this, because it's extremely important. And we, as working with those about 100, well, we say, most active companies in Latvia doing the sustainability index, we have definitely seen that those companies where management works and is interested in this process, they are at the top, because well, because it works. If it's only one person's initiative and management is not involved, then they will not be doing very well. And I have many like professional life experience examples where I can show that that it's very, very important. And then well, I want to say that that's very useful. And as a system, it's a metrics. So what, by introducing this non-financial reporting, what, for example, in this case, European Commission wants us to do it. They don't tell us we all have to become green right now, but they tell us we have to start thinking and analyzing our activities. It's not about penalizing someone. Oh, your percentage of green electricity that they use is not as good as your competitors. It's not like that. It's like, well, at least I know how I compare to others, and I can compare myself with myself 5 years ago. And it's very helpful, and I will give you one example, but basically what this whole system or ESG management system will do is that it will help to build your trust. So basically by being transparent, you become more attractive to this 81% of customers that will base their decision on trust. It will definitely help you to comply with legal requirements, be it EU or central ECB, or maybe it will be a third-party requirement, basically coming from your financial institution. They will tell you that you have to report GHG, but you already do it. It will be easier. Obviously, measuring to manage, you can't manage something that is not measured. You will be able to set targets that are science-based, so calculated based on some data. You will be able to design strategies that work. For example, as Mariana showed, you can actually model and see how it works, like how much can you reduce by applying one measure or another, and then you can also compare the price and choose the most cost-effective measure. In your case, and then design strategies and implement measures, see with time whether you have achieved what you planned. Maybe you will overachieve, which hopefully will be the case. Definitely will help to keep or improve your reputation and save money. Actually, yesterday in Tallinn, my colleagues tried to say that that's the first thing you should mention, that you will save money. And well, it's true, because when the companies only start embark on this trip of sustainability, they actually don't know why they have to do it, and that's the main motivation. They actually, well, most of the companies will be able to save in a long run. Of course, if you're planning only for 2 years, maybe not. But if you're really looking for like long-term growth and sustainable growth, then this will definitely help decision-making. And now I will finish with one example about how monitoring can be very effective and important. So just recently, maybe you've noticed that our Latvian Environmental Protection Agency, State Environmental Agency, Valsts vidas dienests, they had a project where they randomly selected different combustion plants they went to this combustion plant and made the tests. So basically, they took the tests from the pipe, to find out what is the concentration of polluting substances in this exhaust that comes from the combustion plant. And they found out that about 50% were not compliant with the regulations. It is a bad news because, well, maybe they have to be fined. But in fact, what they did is that they informed the operators of these combustion plants that, well, hi, something's wrong. And most probably, what's wrong is that your combustion plant is not working efficiently. You have to invite engineer to basically turn a few bolts here and there, and to fix it, to make sure that it's in optimal condition. And what they had a press release, and they said, well, it's quite strange that nowadays, when energy resources are more expensive, and for example, in the past few months, the prices increased by, for example, 10-15%, that they could actually save those 10-15% just by fixing a few things here and there, not changing anything, not importing new very expensive source of energy, not buying a new equipment, just fixing it. And this shows, well, basically what they did. They informed the operators and they said, you have 3 months to solve this problem and pay for the next measurements from your own pocket, which is natural, obviously, and to prove that it's now working okay. So this, and in our business, we have many examples where actually measuring helps to optimize the performance very, very well, because it can help you to find those elements that are not working well. And this is a good example. So just by maintaining your operation in an optimal way, they could save money for all of us, because we will have to pay for this heat and electricity at the end of the day. Hopefully they will all do this and keep their mechanisms working properly. So I think that it's important to consider this ESG as a metric, as a monitoring measurement system that will help you to find the best ways to operate. And responding to your question, where to start? So there are there are different stages. So the first stage is to understand what is important to your company. It's called, if you look at the all this guidebooks, so it's materiality analysis, a smart word to this. So you basically analyze what's important to you and your stakeholders and to your clients. So your stakeholders could be bank or regulating some institutions. So, for example, you have a polluting permit, and you know that the same environmental agency will ask you for this data, so that's important to you. So your clients are interested in low price, so clients are important to you, and low prices are important to you. So basically, you first sort of field and map your interests. So that's the first thing, because you don't want to report and measure and spend lots of time measuring something that is not important, neither to you, nor to your clients, nor to anyone else. That doesn't make any sense. For example, for most of the businesses and banks, for example, monitoring their water consumption as such is like, well, it's good that you have that you can save water by not flushing the full water tank in the toilet, but most probably it will not be important. But energy consumption for, because you have servers, you have like 100 different electric appliances, etc., so that would be important. So that's what you do. You map what's important to you. Then based on that, you analyze the situation, do some first steps to measure. And I should, we work with companies on a daily basis, and I should tell you that most of the information that is needed to, at least for the screening assessment, is already there. You don't have to go, you don't need to dig deep. The information is already there. Most probably it's somewhere in the accounting department. But it's just a hint. Most probably it's there. So all the information, maybe you will have to do some assumptions. Maybe you will have to work to consult one or another colleague, but for screening, the information is there. And once you have realized what's the background situation, or then you can develop measures and strategies on what is important to you. So, for example, if for you GHG emissions and climate neutrality is important, or for your client, then you set target to reduce your energy consumption, etc., etc. If equal pay, and you have problems with equal pay, for example, at your work, or diversity, then you can set some targets to improve this KPI, and then you report, and you report the facts and those elements that are important to you. So the first thing is to understand why you do it and who is it important for, and then set some targets. So basically, it's as I said, it's a management decision to understand where we want to go, and it doesn't have to be like save the world. Definitely don't. It's not a target to save the world. You do what you can, and then it's important that you can measure it. So otherwise, it doesn't make much sense.
Thank you, Jūlija. Paldies, ka jūs palikāt līdz beigām, tāpēc, ka mēs esam bišķi pārtēruši laiku. Tāpēc, bet, manuprāt, ka šī diena, šī iedvesma, kas bija no mūsu runātājiem, un arī atbildes uz jautājumu, kāpēc un kā jūs esat saņēmuši šodien. Bet, ja tomēr ir kāds jautājums, vēlreiz saku, tepat ir kolēģi, droši nāciet klāt un jautājiet, mēs būsim laipni uzkavēties un palīdzēt jums. Tad uz šīs pozitīvās nots es vēlos teikt jums lielu paldies. Paldies jums, paldies mums un atkal, protams, aplausi no jūsu puses.